Deep in the forests of Central America, immense stone cities stand abandoned beneath roots and vines. Their temples once overlooked plazas crowded with rulers, priests, merchants, warriors, and farmers. Then, many southern Maya cities fell silent near the end of the Classic period. Royal inscriptions disappeared from newly erected monuments. Large construction projects stopped before workers could finish them. Families abandoned homes occupied by their ancestors for generations. Some palaces burned while royal sculptures were deliberately broken. The jungle gradually concealed roads, reservoirs, courtyards, and temples. For centuries, these ruins inspired one disturbing historical mystery. Scholars wanted to know who destroyed the Maya civilization. The question seems to demand one identifiable enemy. Foreign invaders may have attacked the weakened cities. A deadly epidemic may have spread through crowded communities. Common people may have rebelled against oppressive rulers. Rival kingdoms may have destroyed one another through endless warfare. Environmental damage may have ruined the land supporting urban life. Severe drought may have emptied reservoirs and devastated agriculture. Each explanation accounts for part of the surviving evidence. No individual theory explains every abandoned city. The investigation must therefore begin by correcting a famous misconception. The Maya people never disappeared. Millions of Maya descendants still live across Mexico and Central America. They preserve Maya languages, identities, ceremonies, knowledge, and traditions. The collapse destroyed neither an entire population nor an entire culture. It dismantled a political system centered on powerful southern cities. Independent kingdoms controlled separate territories and alliances. Every kingdom possessed its own dynasty, enemies, monuments, and sacred history. Powerful capitals dominated networks of smaller allied settlements. Minor kingdoms survived by repeatedly changing their political allegiance. This divided landscape produced extraordinary achievements alongside persistent instability. Tikal and Calakmul competed through opposing networks of allies. Copan and Quirigua transformed partnership into violent rivalry. Royal marriages sometimes created peace between kingdoms. Disputed successions could destroy that peace within one generation. Victorious kings captured and humiliated defeated nobles. Some prisoners died during public ceremonies. Stone monuments celebrated conquests and warned potential enemies. Defensive walls appeared around increasingly vulnerable settlements. Burned structures show that violence reached residential and royal districts. Warfare was therefore one important suspect in the collapse. However, Maya kingdoms had fought for centuries without destroying the entire political order. War became catastrophic only when other pressures weakened recovery. The southern lowlands appeared fertile beneath thick tropical vegetation. Much of the region rested on highly porous limestone. Permanent rivers and lakes were scarce near several major cities. Rain arrived during a limited season each year. Maya survival depended on controlling water with extraordinary precision. Engineers constructed reservoirs, canals, terraces, dams, and managed wetlands. Plastered channels carried rainwater from plazas into storage basins. These systems supported large populations through long dry seasons. The water systems required recurring rainfall and constant maintenance. When rainfall declined, this dependence became dangerous. Lake sediments preserved traces of ancient environmental change. Minerals growing inside caves recorded variations in past rainfall. Scientists discovered recurring droughts during the terminal Classic period. Some dry intervals continued for several years. The wider crisis repeatedly affected parts of the region for generations. Reservoirs failed to collect enough water for crowded cities. Maize withered before producing mature grain. Families consumed food reserved for the next planting season. Drought connected water scarcity, hunger, migration, warfare, and political instability. Yet drought did not affect every Maya city equally. Northern and coastal centers sometimes prospered while southern capitals declined. Communities near permanent springs enjoyed greater security. Cities with effective reservoirs endured longer than poorly prepared neighbors. Climate created pressure, but geography and leadership shaped the outcome. Growing populations also required more farmland, fuel, housing, and construction materials. Workers cleared forests around densely populated cities. Large quantities of wood fueled kilns that produced lime plaster. The loss of trees made surrounding ecosystems less resilient. Exposed slopes no longer possessed roots capable of protecting their soil. Tropical rain carried fertile earth into valleys and reservoirs. Sediment gradually reduced the capacity of water storage systems. Shallow basins lost more water through evaporation. Overused fields produced increasingly unreliable harvests. Environmental degradation varied significantly between different regions. Some communities managed their land successfully for centuries. Other settlements pushed vulnerable areas beyond their capacity to recover. Deforestation did not create the regional drought. It made the consequences of drought far more destructive. The resulting hunger exposed severe inequality within Maya society. Royal courts depended on tribute collected from farmers and subordinate settlements. Elites used this wealth for ceremonies, warfare, monuments, and luxury goods. Repeated crop failures transformed tribute into a dangerous burden. Farmers could not feed their families while surrendering increasing quantities of grain. Royal households possessed better access to stored food and water. Ordinary families exchanged tools, ornaments, and labor for small amounts of maize. Malnutrition weakened children and older people first. Disease became more dangerous among hungry and displaced populations. Outbreaks may therefore have accelerated decline in particular communities. No evidence identifies one epidemic that killed the entire southern population. Disease was probably an accomplice rather than the principal destroyer. The theory of foreign invasion faces a similar limitation. Trade connected Maya cities with distant societies throughout Mesoamerica. Foreign migrants and warriors may have entered weakened kingdoms. Outside influence appeared in art, weapons, architecture, and political customs. However, no invading army conquered every declining Maya capital. Some cities experienced sudden violence while others declined gradually. Their different timelines contradict the idea of one coordinated invasion. No foreign conqueror stood over the entire Maya world. Investigators must therefore examine the actions of Maya rulers themselves. Sacred kings placed their authority at the center of cosmic order. Royal ceremonies connected dynastic power with fertility, ancestry, time, and reign. Monuments portrayed rulers as intermediaries between humanity and supernatural forces. Successful harvests strengthened belief in royal legitimacy. Repeated drought transformed environmental failure into a political crisis. Crowds watched kings present offerings beneath empty skies. Priests burned incense while reservoirs continued to shrink. Rulers could demand larger ceremonies or launch wars for captives. They could not command the clouds to release rain. Every failed response weakened public confidence. Some kings answered doubt by constructing grander monuments. These projects consumed labor when communities needed practical relief. Other rulers increased tribute to preserve their courts and armies. Their decisions widened the divide between elites and ordinary families. People may have rejected rulers who offered spectacle instead of survival. Construction sites were abandoned with unfinished walls. Royal monuments were smashed across their faces and hands. Palaces were burned, damaged, or left empty. These acts suggest rebellion, conquest, dynastic conflict, or political rejection. Political failure nevertheless followed a different path in each kingdom. Some cities adapted by reorganizing leadership and water management. Other communities relocated towards safer environments. Several capitals declined slowly through sustained migration. A smaller number suffered sudden and violent destruction. Northern cities gained influence while southern centers weakened. Commercial activity shifted toward coastal trade routes. At Copan, centuries of dynastic continuity came to an end. At Tikal, monumental inscriptions became increasingly rare before disappearing. This uneven pattern resembles a chain reaction rather than a single murder. Drought reduced available food and water. Environmental degradation obstructed agricultural recovery. Hunger encouraged migration and increased vulnerability to disease. Migration intensified competition over springs, reservoirs, and farmland. Warfare interrupted planting, harvesting, transportation, and trade. Military defeat destroyed alliances and weakened royal authority. Desperate rulers demanded more tribute from exhausted communities. Greater demands encouraged resistance, rebellion, and flight. Every crisis made the next crisis harder to survive. The political order became trapped inside a self-reinforcing emergency. Families eventually left their cities in search of food, water, and security. They carried tools, seeds, sacred objects, languages, and stories towards safer regions. Their departure transformed powerful capitals into empty stone landscapes. The returning forest concealed a failed political order, but not a vanished people. Maya kingdoms and communities continued beyond the abandoned southern capitals. Their living descendants disproved the myth that Maya civilization disappeared. No single culprit waits to be discovered among the ruins. The collapse emerged from climate stress, warfare, inequality, political fragmentation, and ecological strain. The rulers lost their thrones, but the Maya people endured. Drought, conflict, environmental damage, inequality, and failed leadership destroyed the old order together.